Welcome back everybody, this is Jonathan with Steel Bear Academy. Today I'm going to be talking about the Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center. So that is this gun right here. It is an aluminum framed, meaning this part here is aluminum. You can kind of see the different tone. There's stainless steel, stainless steel, stainless steel, and then kind of that kind of milky white is all aluminum. So it's an aluminum bodied revolver. And it's a J-frame. So a J-frame is the smallest size of Smith & Wesson revolvers that are available right now. The next larger size would be the K-frame for size comparison. So it's a pretty small revolver. And it's really designed for carry. So this is a concealed carry specific revolver. You wouldn't really buy these for, let's say, recreational use or competition. This is meant to be carried. It's very small, it's very compact, it's relatively thin in the cylinder dimension here, and it's kind of amorphous. You know, guns that are not very squared off tend to print far less than many other guns, so it's a fairly easy gun to conceal. The J-frame is really popular for pocket carry. So pocket carry is where you would carry it inside of a holster, inside your pocket. So all you have to do is reach in, grab your gun out of your pocket, and your holster stays in the pocket. They're also very popular as backup guns, typically worn on the ankle in a holster. They can also be worn, you know, in any other position, like shoulder holster or inside or outside the waistband, like every other gun. But the J-frame, because it's so small, tends to really lend itself to those two positions, pocket carry and ankle carry. This is a 637 Performance Center, and Performance Center basically means that it is a upgraded version of the base model, or it's an upgraded model. So for example, there's 637 Performance Center, and then there's the base model 637. Same thing applies to the 686. There's the base model 686, and then there's a Performance Center version of it. In fact, there are several Performance Center versions of it. And that denotes that it is a upgraded trigger, and it's kind of the top of the line of Smith & Wesson's offerings. Now, this gun costs around $600-ish, $600, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. The base model costs around $450. So how much more gun are you getting for going with the Performance Center? These grips did not come with this gun. These are Hogue grips. The grips they came with were these pretty ones here. So these are from Altamont, I believe, and they are very pretty. However, they don't offer much in the way of control. They really jump out of your hands quite a bit when you shoot this gun. They're very pretty though. I like the way they look. This gun is pretty jumpy, so even with this full grip on such a small gun, it still definitely jumps out of your hands when you shoot it. It's not a light recoiling gun because it is so darn light. But that's really its philosophy of, you know, why you're picking this. It's super light. There are steel framed versions of J-frames you could get, and the aluminum is that material that gives you that lower weight. So I want to answer the question, is the Performance Center worth it? Is getting this 637 Performance Center, PC, worth it over the regular 637? And in essence, I think you're really only getting two things on this particular gun. It comes with nicer grips, these pretty grips, and it comes with an upgraded trigger. And the trigger is really the thing that's harder to get. So really you're paying for the trigger. And the question is that trigger worth it? Well, I think it absolutely is in this gun. This gun is only $150 more. Sometimes it's only $100 more, depending. But I think you get a significantly better trigger. So it's hard for me to show you trigger pull and give you an idea of what it feels like, but it is very smooth. It's a very smooth trigger. Single action is very light. And subjectively, I would say that this is smoother and lighter than the 637s that I have tried at the store. I don't own any base model 637, but from the ones I've tried at the store, it is smoother and it is lighter pull weight. So in my opinion, I think that it is worth it. However, you could probably achieve something similar if you got some spring kit. You got a spring kit or something. So just to lead off, I think the Performance Center is worth it in this case for me, because I like nicer triggers. The weight on this is quite impressive. So the 637 is 14.3 ounces for $600. That's the 637. So that's really lightweight. 14.3 ounces. It's hard to find guns in quite capable calibers like 38 Special. This gun is chambered for 38 Special plus P, so you can shoot regular 38 Special and also 38 Special plus P, which is kind of like a in between 38 Special and Magnum. So it's like 38 with a little extra oomph. And those definitely recoil more. This gun is not a light recoiling gun, as I mentioned. Now, something interesting, this gun is, to give you a little history of why I chose this, in the super ultra lightweight revolver world, there's the 637, as far as Smith & Wesson goes. There's the 637, and then there are the scandium framed revolvers. So the scandium frame revolver that is most like this is called the 360 PD, and it has scandium alloy, which is lighter, stronger material, and the cylinder is actually made of titanium on that particular gun. So you save a bunch of weight in the very lightweight cylinder. I think you also save a little bit of weight in the alloy, but you also get the benefit of being able to shoot 357 Magnum in that gun. It's questionable whether that's really a benefit, because shooting Magnum in such a very lightweight gun, 11.7 ounces for the 360 PD. That's crazy. That's super light. That gun would recoil really, really hard and it would be no fun to shoot. I've shot a Ruger LCR in 357 Magnum, and that thing kicks, and it's heavier than that gun as well. So you can only imagine. However, the 360 PD also costs about $400 to $400 more. It's usually in the $900 to $1,000 range, as opposed to this one's in the $600 range, and $450 if you get the base model. Significantly more expensive, but you save about 3 ounces. Sorry, a little less than 3 ounces. And for me, that just wasn't worth it, in my opinion. This gun is not too bad to shoot at the range. However, you would definitely not really want to shoot this much at the range. You can handle it, and it doesn't hurt your hand or anything, but it jumps a lot. So, when you're shooting, it's really trying to come up out of your hands, and you really got to get it back on target and keep it on target. The sights leave a lot to be desired. These sights are pretty bad as far as the potential for sights. It's just like this same colored rear sight or front sight, and then kind of a gutter sight in the back. They are not very easy to pick up, especially in bright lights or for sure at night. And you can't really change them. This is a fixed sight. This is a fixed sight as well, so there's not much you can do in terms of changing them. However, they are also very snag free. So, you kind of want a little revolver to be snag free. That's actually kind of counterintuitive to why I got the one with the hammer. So this is an exposed hammer, double action, single action revolver. These guns are also available in a different model called the 642, which has a hammer that is internal, but you can't interact with it in any way. So it's it's as if the hammer wasn't there. It's inside, but you can't touch it, and you can't cock it for single action. This gun you can cock for single action. And I chose that one despite people saying that the hammer might have the potential to get caught up on your clothes when you go to draw it. And that's true. It's it can happen. You can also draw it in such a way to keep your thumb on the hammer if you would so choose to kind of alleviate that problem. I've done quite a few draws out of the pocket, and I could see it happening, but if you put your thumb just resting on the hammer, you're not going to have that problem if you're concerned about that. But even when I don't, so long as I am doing it deliberately and I have big enough pockets, it doesn't happen very often that it gets snagged on this hammer. The benefit you get with this is that you have the potential for that really nice light single action for making those really accurate shots. And with a J-frame revolver, it's gonna be pretty hard to make long distance shots because you've got a very short sight radius and the trigger is fairly stiff. This particular trigger is relatively light compared to many other J-frame revolvers, but it is still hard to consistently hit what you want to hit anywhere beyond like 10 yards. You can hit pretty respectably at 10 yards, but if you want to shoot, a headshot at 15, you're probably going to want to have a hammer with a single action capability. It's going to be very hard to do that in double action with this little tiny revolver. So let's kind of go down the scores I gave this revolver. For durability, I'd give this a 5 out of 10. And just to remind you, these scores are based on all guns that I have shot ever, not just Smith & Wesson revolvers, not just compared to other revolvers. It's compared to all guns in general. And it will make more sense as I review more and more guns, but it's coming from my experience. So a 5 out of 10. So right smack dab in the middle of durability. So the reason I gave it a 5 out of 10 is it does have an aluminum frame. So as I mentioned earlier, there are other frame materials you can get. So by far the most common is steel, a steel revolver. Like these are all steel revolvers. 2 of them are stainless steel actually. 2 of them are carbon steel. Aluminum is a lightweight material that is not as strong as steel. So there's just no way around that. You can definitely see it getting a lot of scratches on that recoil shield area. You can definitely see the pin, right? This pin for the cylinder, the back of the cylinder where it locks up is definitely dragging a line across there. And that's not a big deal because that's not really that important of a spot. But my point is that these are not super durable. Like they're not the type of guns that you would say, you're definitely never going to outshoot this gun in 5 lifetimes. Like maybe you could say that about some of these other guns based on just, an average person's shooting style, how often they shoot. These guns, I don't think you can give that recommendation of that they'll last for, generations. I think that they will outlast at least myself and at least one other, my children, basically. I think that they will outlast those people for sure. And looking online, I couldn't find exactly what round count we're talking about here. But remember, this is a defensive J-frame revolver that is not intended to be recreationally shot. You can practice with it, and I think that you'll never ever run into a durability problem. But when you compare them to steel revolvers or, even polymer framed guns, like the Glock, for example, I don't think they're going to come to nearly the round count durability as those other guns. But it doesn't have to. This is not you don't buy this for the heirloom quality of it. You buy it because it's a usable, very good quality concealable revolver. And you don't necessarily need a concealable revolver to last you 3 lifetimes. It just has to last you your lifetime and keep you safe. And maybe your children's if you want to pass it down to them. I would say you don't need to baby them. Don't feel like I'm saying that they are not durable. I'm just saying that across all guns that I've shot, these ones are probably smack dab in the middle of not being the most durable, but not being, not being bad. Just they have a limitation in the fact that they are aluminum framed. I take that for what it's worth. I don't think you should worry about it, but it's just something to consider, and it's just necessary for the score component. Like I said, you'll probably never outshoot any of these guns. Next score is carryability. I'd give this a 9 out of 10. I think that this gun scores very high in how easy it is to carry. This is going to be added into my carry rotation pretty soon here when I renew my concealed carry permit. And I've carried it around the house, and I definitely like it. It's very lightweight, and I can carry it in a deep pocket very easily. Weight is a really big issue when it comes to carryability. If it's not a lightweight gun, it's going to be very hard to want to continue to carry it all the time, and you should be trying to carry it as often as possible. It's got very low weight. It's only 14.3 ounces. That's really low. Glock 17 is like 25 ounces or something. Glock 19 is a little less. So it's significantly lighter than those guns. It's also very small. It's very small form factor. It can fit more or less in the palm of my hand, and that's a good thing. Carryability, very high. I don't know if I have found a gun that is easier to carry than this. Maybe some of those really tiny micro guns would be a 10 out of 10, but this is pretty much as easy as it is to carry as any other gun. Shootability is my next score. I'd give this a 4 out of 10. It's very jumpy, and meaning when you shoot it, it really, jumps up and out of your hands. And without these very large for size gun grips, the hook grips are very large. You can picture having smaller grips on these. These are actually a little bit larger than many other J-frame grips. You can imagine that with a regular sized grip that is intended for this gun, it's going to be pretty hard to keep a good grip on it. And these wood grips offer very little traction. They're very pretty though. So it's very jumpy, and it's not something that you're going to enjoy shooting for very long. But it's not bad. I would say it is, in terms of pleasant to unpleasant, I would say it's just barely still in the pleasant category. It doesn't hurt your hand, like it doesn't smack into your hand or batter your hand really too much. It just jumps a lot, and it's kind of hard to control. So 4 out of 10 for that. I have a new category, trigger. So I need to remember to give you descriptions of these triggers. I would give this trigger a 9 out of 10. And trigger, the trigger category for me is how smooth do I think it is? How little does it stack up? How often does it change weights very frequently throughout the pull? I would give this a 9 out of 10. So to describe it, it kind of has a period at the end where you have to pull it a little further than you might have thought. My finger actually, my kind of fat finger right here, actually almost gets a little pinched here in between the trigger and the back of the trigger guard. When you're running it quickly, you don't really notice it, but when you're doing it slowly, it seems like you would expect it to break a little sooner. However, it is very smooth. The single action trigger is very light, very crisp. I would give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is pretty close to the best trigger I've ever felt on a revolver and on any gun in general. There are very few guns that I think I've thought were better than this trigger. The one that comes to mind is a 686, not this particular gun, but an older 686 that I had that was just wonderful, wonderful trigger, very smooth and super light, incredibly light, crisp single action trigger. So 9 out of 10 for this, fantastic. I would definitely, that's one of the reasons I bought the Performance Center is because I wanted that trigger. Really great trigger. Value. Value, I'd give this a 10 out of 10 in value. It's a $450 gun for the base model, a $600 gun for the Performance Center, and in any case, I would give it a 10 out of 10 for value. I think they are very high quality. They're very durable for what they are, and I don't think you're going to have any problems with durability, by the way. But you know, I've already explained that. But I think value-wise, they're incredibly high value. Like some of the best value you can get. They're like half the price of all these other revolvers on the table. These are all in like the $850 to $900 range. This gun is about half the price, and it's in some ways more practical as a gun you might actually use in real life outside of the range. Like, yeah, you could carry these, but this gun, the J-frame revolver actually is a legitimately very well carved out niche that is it's not bullying its way into that niche. It has a very strong position in what it does. Like, there aren't other guns that do what it does better, versus there are almost all other guns that do the job of the full size, duty size revolver better than these revolvers do, and at least in terms of practical things. But this one does most things pretty darn well. It's a little limited in capacity, but I think it's a tremendous value. I don't think, you could get the LCR. The LCR is, meaning the Ruger LCR. It's kind of in a similar category. That's a polymer framed revolver, and it's good. I've had one of those. I would say its trigger is not as good as these, but it is definitely better than a base model J-frame revolver. So here's some competitive offerings. The Ruger LCR, which we've talked about. That's a good gun. I've had one, and I think it is very good for the money. It's also a very high value gun in general, and it's very reliable as well. I think it's a really good gun. It definitely performs a similar job, and it also competes very well against this gun. There's also Taurus. They make small revolvers. I think the one I was looking at was the 605. That's a .357 Magnum, but yeah, I'm sure there are smaller revolvers. And there are also very lightweight aluminum revolvers, I believe, as well. There's also other Smith revolvers that are going to compete for your money. So the numbering system, you just kind of have to learn it as you go. But there's the Smith & Wesson 442 that is basically this gun with a shrouded hammer, and it's black. So the reason I brought that one up actually is I'm sure you have noticed or have heard of the trigger lock on these guns. So that's that little hole right there. These are internally locking revolvers, meaning when you have this little key that you can stick in there and turn it, it will raise this little flag here. So there's a little flag next to the hammer, a little metal piece right there. It'll raise it up and it will lock the hammer from being used. So if the hammer can't be moved, the gun cannot fire. This is a very contentious issue for a lot of people. Many people do not like having an internally lockable revolver. I agree, I don't want that, but it is just the nature of Smith & Wesson revolvers, at least most of them right now. However, if you don't want that, there are some revolvers that Smith makes that don't have that. So the 442 has the option of getting a revolver without one of those. You can also get a 442 with a lock. So, the whole idea like Smith & Wesson has to put those locks on their guns. They don't have to put them on there. They just choose to. And I think it's a big mistake on their part. So I think someday down the line they will change that, but people still buy them. I still buy them. This is not a deal killer for me. However, it used to be, and for a lot of people it is. So if you want a Smith revolver that doesn't have it, there's the 442. There's also the 640 Pro. So the 640 Pro series, that is kind of like a 442, but is made out of stainless steel. And it's also a Performance Center gun, a Pro Series gun. I think it's both actually. Pro Series is kind of like in between regular and Performance Center. That gun also has no lock. So if that's something you're interested in, go for that one. There's also the 360 PD and the 342, I believe. So those are two different scandium framed revolvers. Those are also very good choices. I think it's 340 actually, the 340. Those are also very good choices. More expensive though, because they're made of a scandium frame, and that scandium frame demands a higher price. So there's a lot of choices for this category, and the good news is most of them are kind of in the same price range, with the exception of the 360 PD and the 640 Pro. So those ones lose out a bit on value, and that's kind of why I chose this one, because this one gives you a ton of bang for your buck, literally. It's got 14.3 ounces, and it's only $600 compared to the 360 PD, which is 11.7 ounces for $1,000. You save 2 ounces by almost doubling your price. So for me, this gun just blows it away in value. And I look forward to, adding this into my carry rotation to learn a little bit more about how much I already like it. I like it already, but I think I'm gonna like it even more once I can use it for those days when I don't want to carry something quite as heavy as my Glock 17. So if you're looking for a lightweight, pocket-sized powerhouse 38 Special Plus P revolver, and you want that really nice trigger, I'd recommend the Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center. It's a great gun. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.